Welcome children, welcome to online English class. Children, today we will read The Shepherd's Treasure, a story from your supplementary book. But let me tell you the story in brief for your better understanding. There once lived a shepherd in a village in Iran. He was very poor. He was illiterate too, because he had never been to school. Those days, there were few schools and he was very poor, so he couldn't go to school. But he was very wise. Though he was very poor, but he was very wise. And he helped people with his common sense and wisdom. People came to him to seek his advice in their trouble. Because of his wisdom and kind nature, he became very famous. His fame reached the king's ear also. The king decided to meet this shepherd and test his wisdom. So one day, the king came to his cave riding on a mule. The shepherd rose to welcome the king and he brought him into his cave. He gave him some water to drink. One thing, children, the king had disguised himself as a shepherd so that the shepherd would not recognize him. Otherwise, his behavior will change. When the king reached his cave, the shepherd welcomed him, brought him into his cave, gave him water to drink, and shared his little food, what he had, with the king. The king stayed for the night. Next day, when the king woke up, he wanted to leave from there. So first of all, he thanked the shepherd for his hospitality and asked his permission to go back. The shepherd looked straight into the eyes of the king and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for giving me compliment for a visit." The king was impressed as well as surprised. And the king thought, really, he is very wise and I want such people to serve for me. And the king immediately appointed him as a governor of a small district. After appointing him, the king went back to his kingdom. Children, the shepherd rose to power and dignity from simple shepherd to a governor. He rose to power, but he remained very humble. He was still very kind, sympathetic, and helpful to people. People would honor and respect him for his wisdom and kindness. But as it happens, children, everywhere, other governors of the provinces grew jealous of him and they started talking against him to the king. They said to the king that, "Your Majesty, the shepherd who has been appointed as governor, he is very dishonest. He always carries along with him an iron chest and he keeps a part of money in his iron chest, iron box that he always carries with him. And the money that he collects from people, he does not deposit all the money in the state coffers. He keeps a part of it for his own use." At first, the king ignored their complaints. But how long could he ignore the other governors who were talking endlessly against the shepherd? So one day, the king decided to send for the new governor to his palace. he sent a messenger to call the shepherd to his palace. The shepherd came riding on his camel and carrying that iron chest tied securely on the back of the camel. Think of children, their delight, how delighted the other governors would have been when they saw the shepherd, the new governor, coming with the iron chest. The king asked the governor, "What do you contain in your iron chest? Why do you always carry that iron chest?" The new governor just smiled and he asked his servant to bring in the iron chest into the palace. The iron chest was brought. The governor opened it. No gold, no silver, no money, only an old tattered blanket. And he held the blanket up and showed and said proudly, "Your Majesty, this is my treasure that I always carry with me in this iron chest." The king was surprised. So were the governors. The king asked him, "Why? Why do you carry this iron chest, this old blanket in your iron chest? You are a governor." Opened the chest in front of everyone. No jewel, no silver, no gold, only old blanket. And he held the blanket up proudly and said, "Your Majesty, this is my treasure that I carry in my iron chest." The king was surprised. So were other governors. The governors who thought the shepherd would be the new governor would be caught red-handed. How embarrassed they became. And the king asked the new governor, "Why do you carry this old blanket with you? Surely you are a governor." The governor smiled and he said, "Your Majesty, if any day you should wish to take away my royal robe and position from me, then this old blanket will protect me. This blanket is my old friend." Children, the king was greatly surprised and impressed with him. And he said, he thought surely he was the wisest person in that country. And other governors also accepted this fact, that really he was the wisest person in that country. And the king was so happy with him that he made the shepherd the governor of a bigger state. So children, did you like the story?